Have you ever said something completely harmless only to watch your partner's face drop like you just insulted their soul? You thought you were being helpful, but they felt criticized. You were just tired, but they heard rejection. Maybe you said we should probably eat healthier, and somehow that turned into a fight about who does more in the house. It's wild, isn't it? How the same words can mean totally different things depending on who's hearing them and when. Today, we're diving into that gap, the invisible space between what you meant and what they felt. Hi there. If this is your first time here, welcome to the Parenthood and Relationship Podcast. I'm your host, Markella Kaplani, a psychologist, a parenthood and relationship coach, and a parent myself. Together, we explore the transformative journey of parenthood and its profound impact on our relationship with ourselves, our partners, and our children, so that we can be present and show up as we envision without having to do more. Let's get into today's episode. Welcome back to the Parenthood and Relationship Podcast. If you're someone trying to raise a family without losing your connection to yourself or your partner, you're in the right place. This month, we're diving deep into communication, but not just any kind of communication. We're talking about communication that builds connection rather than breaking it. And trust me, a lot of communication actually causes more harm than good. And today we start with something a little bit uncomfortable, but very human. Why good intentions can still hurt. Because no matter how loving, mindful, or well-meaning we may be, our words don't always land the way we think they do. Especially when we're tired, overwhelmed, or feeling underappreciated. Sound familiar? Let's explore why that happens and what we can begin to do differently. Oh, but before we dive in, let me just quickly remind you of the fact that if you have not signed up for my weekly love letter, the Sunday Reconnect, you are missing out on one insight, one exclusive tool, and one 3-minute reset, all sent to you for free straight to your inbox. While relevant to the weekly episode that is released, they are always helpful at any point in your journey. So make sure you sign up at markellakaplani.com/newsletter. Now, I want to start today's episode by introducing a couple I worked with recently. Let's call them Anna and Theo. Anna had just returned to work after their second child. So she was at a phase where she was trying to juggle professional life, kids, her identity as a mom, needs, wants of everybody. And then one night, Theo, casually over dinner, says, I don't think the kids have eaten a real vegetable all week. Now, to Theo, this was a light comment. Maybe it was even funny. At worst, it was a concern. Maybe he was wondering what they could both do better. But to Anna, who was exhausted and already doubting whether she was doing enough, it felt like a dagger, a critique. Her inner monologue began. He thinks I am failing at feeding our kids. He doesn't see how hard I'm trying. This is the gap that I want to talk about today. The space between what we mean and how it's received. And this happens all the time, not because we're mean or because we're problematic, but because tone, timing, nervous system state, and past experiences all shape how something lands. Your partner may say, why didn't you tell me that you had that meeting today? And you may hear, you're disorganized. You don't consider me. You say, I just need 5 minutes of quiet time. And they hear, you don't want to be with us. We're not hearing each other clearly because we're listening through layers. Layers of tiredness, insecurity, childhood conditioning, and emotional backlog. And now it's time to go a little deeper. Have you ever noticed how a little comment that wouldn't bother you on a good day completely unravels and derails you on a bad one? That's because when we're dysregulated, our brain interprets things as threats. A simple, neutral statement can feel loaded. Our body picks up on danger before our mind can make sense of it. Here's an example from a mom I worked with. Let's call her Julia. She told me that her partner, we'll name him Mark, walked into the kitchen one afternoon and said, "You're still in your pajamas?" And in that instant, she felt shame. And so she snapped. "Do you even know what kind of a day I've had?" she asked him. From Mark's point of view, his comment was based on surprise, maybe even curiosity, about the fact that Julia was in her pajamas at the middle of the day, which is something that she never did. It could have been received as consideration, as a way to show that he's noticing her and maybe even a concern, to check in whether she's all right, if she needs something. But what Julia heard was judgment. And from her point of view and her state of stress in that moment, she too was right in her own truth. Our emotional state is the filter. If you're in a season of life, in a season of parenting where you rarely get rest or appreciation, that filter is likely to be carrying a lot of static. Now, I want to be clear. This doesn't mean you're too sensitive or overreacting. It means you're human and context matters. Parenting stretches us. It pushes our nervous systems beyond what they are prepared for, beyond what we've ever trained them for. So unless we're conscious about it, our communication becomes reactive, not relational. So then, how can we start building more conscious communication? There are 3 invisible factors that I want to bring forward. The first is timing. A true thing said at the wrong time still feels wrong. What do I mean by that? Well, don't start by problem solving when your partner walks through the door. Don't bring up recurring issues mid-meltdown. Emotional readiness is key. Read the room. Then there's tone. Tone isn't just about volume or pitch. It carries emotion. Even saying thank you can sound biting when your tone is resentful. Thank you. Most of what we communicate is nonverbal. In fact, just yesterday, I was listening to a favorite podcast of mine, and the guest, a former FBI agent, was saying that there are studies, numerous of them, that reveal that we form an impression on a person in just 3 milliseconds, faster than we can blink. So it's easy to understand that when my tone and my words mismatch, people will believe the tone, as well as the microexpressions that our brain registers, often subconsciously. Finally, there's unspoken baggage. We all carry stories about who does more in the home, about what makes a good partner, about what effort looks like. These unspoken stories silently inform what we expect and how we interpret what's going on. Your truth is probably quite different from my truth, but they can both be equally true because I judge what I do and what you do from my own value system and vice versa. If our value systems mismatch, and believe me, that is more common than not, then we could end up feeling like we are the ones pulling all the weight of what we think is the most important thing and what we consider as hardest to do. Looking back at our other couple, that first one that I mentioned, when Theo talked about the vegetables, he wasn't just talking about dinner. Not to Anna, at least. Anna heard every story she had internalized about motherhood and how she was supposed to show up, about failure or about not feeling seen. If we don't recognize that these deeper currents exist, we assume bad intentions. But often the hurt isn't about malice. It is about what is stirring up on the inside. Now, whether it's Julia or Theo or Mark or you or me that snaps or feels unjustly treated and hurt, we are not here to demonize that. I want to make that perfectly clear. When we feel that way, when that happens though, it's important that we take a step back and try to understand what this reaction, what this feeling means for us. What need is trying to be illuminated rather than just stay with the hurt that we believe that the other person solely caused, and therefore assume or assert that the other person should fix, restore, or make up for. So what was Anna's need? Her need was to process all the stress caused by trying to be everything for everyone, everywhere, at all times. Her anger and hurt indicated that she is stretched thin, and that the guilt of not showing up the way that she thinks she is supposed to is starting to wear her out. It's an indication that she needs to reevaluate her choices, her priorities, and whether what she is currently expecting of herself and of her life is realistic, or, as my therapist said the other day, whether it is compassionate. Let's replace realistic with compassionate. Is Anna being compassionate when she accepts society's expectation that she should show up fully in all roles simultaneously? Is that compassionate toward herself? What do you think? So, let me leave you with something practical, a small step that opens the door to clearer, kinder connection. It's the 3P practice, more specifically called the pause, paraphrase, and proceed. First, we pause. Pause before responding. When something stings, pause for a beat. Breathe. Ask yourself, what did I actually hear? If I were confident that my abilities, character, what I provide are not in question, would I have felt the sting? Then, paraphrase what you think you heard. Not with sarcasm, of course, but with curiosity. For example, I could say, are you saying that you feel unsupported with dinner lately? Finally, proceed with intention. Decide how you will respond after having checked in, after having paraphrased. Not everything needs a comeback. Sometimes we just need a context check. We can't eliminate miscommunication, but what we can do is build awareness around the moments where good intentions go sideways. We can merely try to show up from a place where our first assumption is that what our partner is saying, what you are saying, comes from a kind place before jumping to the conclusion about the ways in which you want to hurt me or insult me. And the more we become conscious of that gap between what we mean and how it may land, the less damage we do in the name of love. Okay, so I hope this has been helpful. Next week, brace yourself. We'll talk about conflict. Not just about how to fight fair, but why the way that we fight reflects our attachment patterns and how we can start repairing instead of repeating. If today's episode sparked anything for you, or if it brought a moment up where you felt misunderstood, or you felt that you may have intentionally or unintentionally hurt someone, I would love to hear from you. You can always find me on Instagram at markella.kaplani. Markella is with double L. Or through my newsletter, The Sunday Reconnect, where you can just press reply. And as always, I will read and reply to everything. So make sure you sign up for it at markellakaplani.com/newsletter. You may also love my Intimacy in 5 Minutes guide. So let me invite you to download that at markellakaplani.com/intimacy in 5 minutes. 5 with a numeral. Or you can find the link in the show notes or the description below. It's designed so that it is quick and practical, that it takes into account the chaos of our life, especially as parents, but also the fact that we may be a little bit stuck and maybe just a little bit unwilling to budge. And so the tools that I provide there are meant to help you feel a little less guarded and a bit more motivated to try to connect with your partner. Download it for free and let me know what you think. So, until next week, let's pause before we speak. Let our words be the bridge, not the battleground. Take care of yourself so that you can take care of each other. That is what children thrive on. I'll see you next Sunday. Bye-bye.